Configuring Azure Active Directory authentication for Azure SQL Virtual Network integration is a crucial step in securing your database infrastructure. This guide will walk you through the process step by step. First, you need to create an Azure Active Directory and register your Azure SQL Server with it. To do this, navigate to the Azure portal and select Azure Active Directory from the left-hand menu. Then, click on App Registrations and select New Registration. Enter a name for your application and select Accounts in any organizational directory as the supported account type. Next, you need to create a service principal for your Azure SQL Server. A service principal is an identity created for use with applications, services, and tools. To create a service principal, click on Certificates and Secrets and select New Client Secret. Enter a description for the secret and select an expiration period. After creating the service principal, you need to configure the Azure SQL Server to use Azure Active Directory authentication. To do this, navigate to the Azure SQL Server resource and select Active Directory Admin from the left-hand menu. Then, click on Set Admin and select Add Admin. Enter the name of the service principal you created earlier and select Save. Now, you need to configure the virtual network integration. To do this, navigate to the Virtual Network resource and select Subnets from the left-hand menu. Then, click on Associate Subnet and select the subnet that you want to integrate with the Azure SQL Server. Select the Azure SQL Server from the list of available servers and select Save. Finally, you need to test the Azure Active Directory authentication. To do this, navigate to the Azure SQL Server resource and select Query Editor from the left-hand menu. Then, enter your Azure Active Directory credentials and select Connect. If everything is configured correctly, you should be able to connect to the Azure SQL Server using Azure Active Directory authentication. Best practices for configuring Azure Active Directory authentication for Azure SQL Virtual Network integration include using least privilege access, regularly rotating service principal secrets, and monitoring Azure Active Directory authentication logs for suspicious activity. By following these steps and best practices, you can secure your Azure SQL database infrastructure and ensure compliance with regulatory requirements.